contribution to the hit movie Dirty Dancing, the song Hungry Eyes hit number 2 on the adult contemporary chart and also returned him to the pop top 10. Reason to Try, a further contribution to the One Moment in Time competition album song recorded for the Seoul Summer Olympics, kept Carman in a high-profile position in 1988, during which the nostalgic Make Me Lose Control also returned him to the number 1 position on the adult contemporary chart. It was there for 3 weeks, as well as number 3 on Billboard's Hot 100. The year 2000 saw the stateside release of I Was Born to Love You, which had been released in 1998, only in Japan as Winter Dreams. Carman's use of a band on the recording, however, he didn't use a band on the recording, playing most of the instruments and programming the drum parts himself, kind of like Herb Alpert did with the Tijuana Brass. So it really was just Eric Carman. He played all the instruments, they were all mixed in, and he took all the money. Now, the album didn't find a large audience, but Carman continued to enjoy success placing songs with other artists over the years. In 2000, he toured with Ringo Starr and the Ringo Starr and his All-Star Band, which, by the way, I saw them play live at the Fabulous Fox Theater. If you ever get a chance to see Ringo Starr and his All-Star Band, please do. Granted, Ringo Starr is almost 80 years old, and basically he doesn't do much but kind of dance and say peace and love, plays the guitar, plays the drums just a little bit, does a lot of sitting down, but he's almost 80 years old. But the band he puts together is just, it's great musician after great musician after great musician, and they're musicians who have seen their best days go past, but they still have a lot to offer. Check them out if you get a chance to. Eric Carman played with them back in the year 2000. So that's Eric Carman, the man. And if that's all Eric Carman had done, maybe it would be worth a podcast, maybe it wouldn't. But that, my friends, is just a small slice of the large pie that makes Eric Carman a pop icon. Maybe a rock icon, but definitely a pop icon. And it had more to do with his involvement with the group, the Raspberries. Now, the Raspberries were an American pop rock band formed in 1970 in Cleveland, Ohio. They had a run of success in the early 70s music scene with the pop rock sound, which all music later described as featuring exquisitely crafted melodies and achingly gorgeous harmonies. The members of the Raspberries were known for their clean-cut public image with short hair, matching suits, which brought them a teeny bopper type attention, as well as scorn from mainstream media outlets who saw them as uncool. The band drew influence from the British invasion era, especially the Beatles, the Who, the Hollies, and the Small Faces. In both the US and the UK, the Raspberries helped pioneer the power pop music style that took off after the group disbanded. Now, the Raspberries have a true following, guys who just loved the Raspberries. Who were these musicians? How about Jack Bruce? How about Ringo Starr? How about Courtney Love? All musicians who just worship the ground the Raspberries walked on and their power pop music style. More about the power pop music style later. The group consisted of Eric Carman, Walter Bryson, Jim Bonfanti, and Dave Smalley. Their best known songs include Go All the Way, Let's Pretend, I Want to Be With You, Tonight, and Overnight Sensation. Now, producer Jimmy Lenner was responsible for all 4 of the Raspberries albums in the 1970s. The group disbanded in 1975 after a 5-year run, and Eric Carman proceeded to a successful career as a solo artist. Bryson and Smalley resurrected the group's name in 1999 for an album which included singer-songwriter Scott McCarl as vocalist In 2004, the original quartet reunited and took a well-received reunion tour on the road in 2005. Now, back to the power pop music style. The Raspberries invented it. Who piggybacked on it? How about groups like The Who? That, friends, is the power pop music style, and these groups used it to great success. In fact, Pete Townsend actually coined the phrase, Pete Townsend of The Who actually coined the phrase power pop to define what The Who did. Now, for some reason, it really didn't stick to The Who, but it did stick to other groups that came out in the 1970s who played kind of a melodic songs with crunchy guitars and some wild drummings. It just stuck to the Raspberries. And when the power pop scene came on big, like from The Who, they went back and they thought, well, who invented this? It was the Raspberries, back from 70 to 75. Now, the first lineup of the Raspberries was Eric Carman, John Bonfanti, Walter Bryson, and John Alesic. Now, Alesic left the band back in 1970. He wasn't with them long. In 71, Dave Smalley came back from Vietnam. He became the fourth member, and that's where they really took off. In fact, the Raspberries demo tape went to the disco producer Jimmy Lenner, for whom Carman had previously done session work. After a major label bidding war, the band signed to Capitol Records. Its first album, get this, the first album featured a strong scratch and sniff strawberry-scented sticker on the front of the cover. Believe it or not, I remember that. The Raspberries wore the matching ensemble on stage. The group was criticized for making its stage entrance in tuxedos and large bouffant hairdos, which, according to Eric Carman, complemented the style of our music. In other words, it was a show. They were showmen. In fact, Go All the Way peaked at number 5 in the U.S. in October 1972, sold over 1 million copies, and was awarded a gold disc. Afterwards, Carman and Smalley switched instruments, with Carman moving to rhythm guitar so that he would be up front on stage, while Smalley took over bass. After 2 albums, Raspberries and Fresh, both of them released in 1972, creative tensions came to a head, sparked largely by Carman's creative dominance and commercial success over the contributions of Bryson and Smalley. He was playing every instrument. He was the front man. He was the vocalist. He did all the writing. He did all the lyrics. Kind of like Creedence Clearwater Revival. John Fogerty was the band. Eric Carman was the Raspberries, and everybody knew it, and nobody liked it. Now, accordingly, Side 3, that was another album that they did after Raspberries and Fresh, turned out to be more of a raw, aggressive effort than its predecessors. It was typified by the opening track, Tonight. After its release, Smalley was ejected from the band, and Bonfanti departed soon afterwards. They subsequently formed their own band called Dynamite. The bassist and the drummer were replaced for the Raspberries' fourth and final album, Starting Over. Now, the band broke up in 1975, but their style continued to influence other musicians. Who else did it influence? How about Bruce Springsteen? Bruce Springsteen praised the Raspberries at several stops during his summer 2005 tour. Springsteen's drummer, Max Weinberg, said that he based his drum style in that period off the Raspberries drummer, Michael McBride, particularly on Springsteen's album Darkness at the Edge of Town. How about Paul Stanley of Kiss? How about Tom Petty? How about Axl Rose of Guns N' Roses? They've also, every one of them, cited the Raspberries as an influence on their songwriting and style. That, my friends, is a big deal. They created a genre of music that was copied, not copied, copy's the wrong word, emulated by some of the best in the business. Now, they got back together in November of 2004 because the House of Blues nightclub chain, they opened its Cleveland branch. and they opened it with a Raspberries reunion concert featuring all 4 original members. This led to a well-received 2005 mini tour starting at the Chicago House of Blues, a VH1 Classic special, and a concert broadcast on XM satellite radio. A date from the 2005 tour in Los Angeles was recorded and released in 2007 as Live on Sunset Strip. The double CD and 1 DVD contained a foreword from Bruce Springsteen and a 1970s photo of John Lennon wearing a Raspberries Starting Over t-shirt. Capitalizing on the release, the Raspberries played further shows in New York, California, and of course, their hometown of Cleveland, Ohio. The band's iconic rock tune Go All the Way attracted renewed attention in 2014 when it was notably included on the Marvel Cinematic Universe release film Guardians of the Galaxy. The Albany Democrat Herald ran a positive review on the film, remarking that, quote, "While it's freaky to hear the Raspberries in space, one recognizes its majesty and craft and appreciate the range of vocalist Eric Carman." The song was included on the film's Guardians of the Galaxy Awesome Mix Volume 1 soundtrack released July 2014. In 2017, Omnivore Records released Pop Art Live, a recording of the band's first Cleveland reunion show in November 2004. It was their first show together in nearly 30 years, featuring 28 songs, including material by major influences The Beatles and The Who. The album received positive reviews from publications like AllMusic, Paste, and Stereophile. Critics Mark Deming of AllMusic remarked that, quote, "The Raspberries merge that superb craftsmanship of their classic recordings with the sweat and muscle of a crack band having a great time." And that, my friends, is a bit about Eric Carman and the Raspberries. I like to do these, the fill in the blank you never heard of, mainly because you've heard of these guys, in some cases gals, but you probably didn't know much more about them. In fact, I had that earwig stuck in my head, Go All the Way. So I had to do research about Eric Carman. I had no idea he was a classically trained pianist. I had no idea he was a child prodigy. I had no idea that the Raspberries created the power pop music genre. And the Raspberries were only around for 5 years. They had a handful of hits. Yeah, they toured later on as a comeback group, and if they toured again, maybe I'd see them. But the Raspberries and Eric Carman were actually fantastic, I thought. Were they a rock band, a pop band, a little bit of both? Sure. Bottom line is, Eric Carman is 72 years old now. He's still in the business, and he's worth $10 million. So he made a bunch of money in the process. And that's it for the podcast. Is that a little bit more upbeat than the New York Times says God is dead and the war's begun? I like to think so. Shorter podcast than normal, but that's okay. We don't have to make a 40, 50, 60-minute podcast each and every week. Now do we? So that's it. I'm done. JamesStrongShow@hotmail.com. That's the email address. Send me your emails. Send me your comments. I like to hear them. I love to read them, and I do respond to each and every one of them. JamesStrongShow@hotmail.com. Send me your email address. I will go ahead and send you a link to the podcast. You can download it and listen to it at your leisure. If you don't want to do that, fine. You can go ahead and just find The James Strong Show wherever podcasts are found. You name it, it's there. That's it. We're done. Until next time, this is James Strong saying adios.